Hey guys, American Pizza Books here. I'm back today with another video, and today I am reviewing The Night Parade by Ronald Malfi. Now, some of you may have heard of Ronald Malfi, maybe not. He writes mostly horror, though in the beginning of his career, he kind of wrote a myriad of different things. But he has quite a few books under his belt at this point. And he's got a new book coming out next year. I don't remember the name off the top of my head, but it is going to be released, I think, in like May or June of next year, so keep your eye out for that one. But I've read a few books by Ronald Malfi at this point. I read Little Girls a few years ago. That one was pretty good. The ending was a little bit weird, but other than that, it was pretty good. I read his book of novellas. There's 4 novellas in the book, Ghostwritten. And that was absolutely phenomenal. Like, Little Girls was good, but I think it was Ghostwritten that really got me hooked on Ronald Malfi's stuff. He's a phenomenal writer, brilliant writer, and I love his stuff. You know, I think, because people talk a lot about, just like new authors, because obviously people always talk about, when you talk about horror, people are going to bring up Stephen King and people like that. But I think when you talk about new upcoming authors in the genre who are just really going to be great, I really think Ronald Malfi is one of those people, because his work is it's great. I can't praise it enough. And if you're looking to start somewhere, I would definitely start with The Night Parade, because this was an excellent book. I think this might be my favorite thing of his that he's written so far. And I haven't read any of his other stuff yet, so that could change. And I don't even think this is his most popular book, because I know one of his more popular books is Come With Me. Another book of his that was released last year that was really popular was, I believe it's called Blackmouth. That one I've heard nothing but praise for, so, maybe start with one of those two as well. But definitely The Night Parade's a good place to start. Now, The Night Parade, I knew a few things going into it. I knew that it involved, a father and a daughter, and that they were on the run, and that the daughter kind of had, like, some sort of special ability. That's really all that I knew. I didn't really know anything outside of that. But apparently in this book, we're dealing with, I guess you could say, because there's been this, like, plague. So it's kind of like an apocalyptic story. Not post-apocalyptic, though, because in the point that we're in at this book, because there are flashbacks in this book that we do read about the main character and his wife and the daughter and stuff like that that really fleshes out, their situation and what they're going through. But I would say this is more of like not a pre-apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic. It's more like a I guess you could say mid-apocalyptic, I guess, if that's even a phrase, but it's in the midst of when things are going to shit. Like, not everything is completely, like, gone to shit yet, but it's definitely in the midst of it. So I wouldn't say it's post-apocalyptic. It's more like in the midst of it, basically. But we meet this father and daughter, and trying to, because the name of the main character is escaping me at the moment. David and his daughter, let's see. Can't believe the names are escaping me. Ellie's his daughter's name. So we're kind of following them, and they're on the run, and something has happened that we don't know about. And David, in the beginning of the story, is kind of keeping it from his daughter, and it involves the mother. And what we later find out is that the mother has died, and because she had a special type of, like, immunity to her with the disease and stuff. And the doctors and, like, the CDC had taken her in and were doing experiments on her. But it became too much for her body to handle, and she ends up, like, sadly dying, though we don't know, like, how she died. But we find out, like, towards the end of the book, or, like, in the middle of the book, which is kind of a twist, and I won't give it away here. But, so she had an immunity to it, and then the daughter has this ability, and she apparently has the immunity too, and they're wanting to get a hold of the daughter so they can run the same experiments on her. but David isn't going to allow that to happen. So he's basically got Ellie in there running from the CDC and stuff like that. And meanwhile, we're dealing with like an apocalyptic situation where this disease is wiping out mass amounts of the population. So there are other books like that, but I like how this one was done. This book kind of reminded me. This book kind of reminded me of The Road in a way, because it deals with that parental-child like bond and stuff. Because in The Road you obviously had the father and the son. In this book you have the father and the daughter. And I always like when stories, examine and deal with that, relationship, that bond between, a parent and a child. And I thought it was done extremely well here. The characters, I love the characters. I absolutely. David is, he's not perfect, but he's you can see that he's doing his best throughout the story. Like he has to lie to Ellie, and he feels bad about that. But, eventually he tells her the truth about what happened to her mother. But you can tell that he just wants to protect his daughter. He doesn't want anything to happen to her. And he's a very, very likable character. I really like David. Ellie's also a really good character. When I had read that she was like this gifted child and stuff, I was like, oh boy, here we go. Because, when it comes to like, genius child characters or child characters that are just like really, really smart. It's just, it's not something I particularly care for, but Ellie, I thought, was written really, really well. She was believable as a child. She did have like those moments where she was incredibly perceptive and like when she would use her ability, but at the same time, she didn't come across as totally unbelievable, because I believe in this book she's like, I think she's 8 years old, from what I remember. I think she's 8, like 8 going on 9 or something. So it's not unbelievable, because when I read that, I immediately thought of like a child character from a Dean Koontz book. And like, this isn't me like taking a jab at Dean Koontz or anything, but like sometimes, like with Dean Koontz, he's not known for writing like the best child characters. And a lot of the times he'll write child characters that are just like either really smart or or they have like autism or something, because he's not really great at writing, just child characters in general. And I thought this was going to be the same case with Ellie in this book, but it really wasn't. She was a great character. There are other characters in this book. There's David's brother or stepbrother, I think, but they have very much a brotherly bond. You meet him towards the end, but he's a really cool character as well. You have David's wife, who we see her decline, at least her mental decline in the book, and when we see the flashbacks and stuff. And, that was really sad. And we also run into this group of, I think it ends up being that they're like cannibals and stuff, or no, I think they were like a group of cannibals, or they wanted to make a sacrifice. But they run into this group that like basically tries to kidnap them and hold them hostage because they want to either sacrifice David or Ellie. That's something you run into in the middle of the book, but so you come across all sorts of characters in this book, but the character work was great. The dialogue was great. Everything, I can't praise this book enough. Everything about it just worked for me. The pacing was really good. There was never a point in this book that I felt like it just dragged. It didn't feel like there was anything that didn't need to be there. Everything that was in the book, had a purpose, it had an impact, and it had a really good impact, and it was great. You find out, like, midway through the book that David, is getting sick, and that he has contracted the disease, and it's really, really, really sad, because like I said, David is, he's trying to protect his daughter, and he's doing the very best that he can. You can see that he's struggling because he lost his wife, and he's barely had any time to register it because he had to get his daughter out of there. And you really feel for him, but the relationship between him and Ellie that you really just come to love, it's a really nice, like, it's the father-daughter bond. It was really nice to read about. I thought that Ronald did a really great job with that. And, when you find out that he's sick, and that he's dying and stuff, because once you get the illness, once you get the disease, there's zero chance of coming back from it. You're basically a goner if you get it. And you find out that he gets it, and you know how the story is probably going to end, at least with his story. And I won't spoil it, but you can probably put two and two together. But like, it's just so sad when you find that out. And the ending of this book, I don't tear up with books very often. Like, I don't finish a book, even if the ending is sad. I don't tear up a lot. But at the end of this book, it actually got me to tear up. Like, I actually was crying. It was just so sad. And the way that Ronald Malfi just makes you care about this father and daughter, and the relationship between them. And then the ending, it was like, it was a punch to the gut. It was really sad, but like I said, I don't get emotional over books very often, but the ending of this book really got me emotional. So, just everything about it works. And like I said, the way that Ronald Malfi writes is just excellent. He doesn't get, and when I say he writes well, I don't mean that like he gets all like purpley with his prose, or that it gets bogged down that way. But the prose, it's both very easy to follow, while also just being some really, really fantastic writing. I think that Ronald Malfi is probably one of the best in the game at this point. But yeah, so that's really about it as far as the book goes. Trying to see if there's anything else that I wanted to point out, but there are several times in the book where they come, like they like drive across areas. There are scenes of real suspense and like and that gives you feelings of unease and stuff. And I don't know if I would call this book. I would say it could be like, it has elements of horror in it, definitely. I would say it's an apocalyptic book, but I would also say that it's a book about, I guess you could say it's a book about it. One of the themes in it is also like grieving, maybe, because you have David, who is very much grieving the loss of his wife, but he's also having to like focus on making sure his daughter is safe and being on the run from the people who want to take her and do these experiments on her. Grief, loss, all these things. It's a very, very melancholy book. There are a few moments here and there that are kind of like, that are light and even occasionally funny. There is one scene that I forgot to mention that's so gruesome. Like, so they're having to like make an escape, and they go to this farmhouse, and they're gonna take the car, but they go into the house and they find this really, really like gruesome, like fucked up scene. I almost don't want to say it. I want you guys to experience it for yourself. But like, that scene was terrifying, and it didn't deal with a monster or anything like that. But you'll see what I mean. It was genuinely disturbing the way it was written. So I would say there are definitely elements of horror, but not like the traditional like ghost or monsters, anything like that. It's real life terror. It's real life horror. What would you do to protect your loved ones? And, how would you deal with having to lose someone, but then having to, deal with something else right after. So it's very good. I can't praise it enough. So easily a 5-star read. I want to say this book won an award, I think. I don't think it was the Bram Stoker, or maybe it was. You'll have to check me on that. But, yeah, very good story. The Night Parade by Ronald Malfi. Definitely check it out. If you're looking to start somewhere with him, this one's the way to go. Little Girls would also be a good place to start. Certainly Ghost Written if you're looking for, more of, if you like novellas and short story bind-ups and stuff, that's a really good one to start with. But if you're looking for a novel to start with, I couldn't recommend The Night Parade enough. So that's it for this one. Let me know what you guys think. Have you read Ronald Malfi? If so, what's your favorite book by him? All that stuff. So, peace, and keep on reading.